Today, Liam and I are going to be talking about psychedelics and the fun and knowledge that comes with them. All right. Now we got the special hippie cocktail all prepared for us right now. We are ready. We're ready to rumble for however long we end up doing this for. We got the hippie speedball combination. I'm not gonna go into depth, but you know if you know. And we got water, and we got plant life right here to continue to fuel our nature, tribal, and ancestral conversations that we're about to have. What were you gonna say?
Is that a real plant?
It is.
What is it?
I have no idea, but it thrives in that jar.
It's gonna thrive with us.
Yes, it is thriving with us. So, I think we should start with we should start on the bottom of the, not tier list, but on the bottom of the powerfulness level.
Right.
And build our way up. So
Right.
I'm thinking some early funny weed stories or acid stories or mushroom stories to kick us off.
Oh.
Do you have any off the top of your head? Because I have at least one.
All right. Well, let's hear it. I got one.
All right. So I'm gonna try not to get too deep into this because it's easy to get deep into these stories, but I mean that's kind of what we're here for. But so it was prior to my first time getting high, my second time smoking weed technically, but I didn't really get high the first time. I didn't smoke it right, so I didn't feel much psychedelic effect. But the second time I for sure did, and I was with our buddy Gabe. I'm not gonna say his full name, but
It's a good man right there.
yeah, it is a good man right there. And he was determined to get me to feel the effects of the Green Goddess, whether he was determined to get me there no matter what it took. So and he did. So I was with him next to a river right in town, at the Pondage
Oh yes.
in town. Yeah, so we were posted up next to a river, very serene, pretty place.
Sewage polluted river.
Yeah, allegedly sewage polluted,
Allegedly.
but it is a visually pretty river. And I was with Gabe, and I had this Gatorade bottle bong that I had created. I'll actually put up a picture on screen because I photoshopped the same thing that I made.
Did you?
To describe it to somebody one time. And so it was a Gatorade bottle with a plastic pen hollowed out inside of it, and then a metal wrench socket on the end.
You want to smoke with a lot of plastic.
Yeah. At least the bowl was metal though, you know.
Right.
And I think I had it scotch taped onto the pen. But it worked. It had suction, and it did its job. And Gabe packed his sacred skunka in there.
Right.
And
The sacred skunka.
He torched it and told me to just. He was like, rip that shit. You better keep going. You stop, I'm gonna He was threatening me to take the biggest rip I physically could, and then he cleared it. And I remember hacking my lungs out into the river, and this happened for at least 2-3 rips.
That's nice.
I didn't feel it the first couple times, but it happened a good couple times. And then as I was leaning over a rock, coughing into the river, I felt the craziest rush, psychedelic. It hit me so hard. I was like,
You were tripping.
yeah. So if you've taken a really big dab and you're struggling to recover after, and then the sensation of THC overloading your brain so quickly just has you has your heart beating up for a second, and people get the dab sweats and stuff, but usually they're used to it. It was my first time. So I was basically from that point forward, for the next at least 30 minutes, I think it was closer to an hour, I was basically just having an existential crisis.
Yeah, it was
and I didn't
full of
feel
anxiety.
Like I could move. Yeah. Well, what was happening is I was like in real time forgetting who I was, and like forgetting a lot of what I thought like the very basic things that I couldn't possibly forget, and I was like trying super hard to like remember certain people's names. I think I was doing the classic like try to grip to reality as best you can.
Yeah.
But it's just getting ripped away from you. Like, everything that I had known to perceive reality as was, like, shattering. I basically had somewhat of an ego death experience, if not an ego death experience, from my first time getting high from smoking weed. And the funniest part was, well, this is a funny detail, too, but my like, visual perception was so, like, weird. Things felt, like, a lot further away from like my depth perception was super messed up. Gabe he was like 2 feet away from me sitting on the same rock, and it looked like he was 40 feet away and like 50 feet tall. Yeah. And I had a what'd you say?
Probably felt very accomplished.
Yeah. He was like poking me with his knife, like messing with me the whole time. He was playing like the first time we smoked, he had played like Tron, Cat, and Nightmare by Tyler, the Creator. And if you don't know those songs, look it up right now so you know what I'm talking about. Tron, Cat, and Nightmare by Tyler, the Creator from the Goblin album. I had never heard that music before. I was just kind of into like spiritual rap shit for like my whole life up until that point, and like 90s rock shit. And I was like, it made me so much scared of the experience, because it was like spooky early Tyler music.
Yeah,
where he's like acting like a character that kills people and does crazy shit.
Talking about like rape the whole time.
Legit. So on top of that, he's playing like music that isn't really scary, but to me at the time was kind of unsettling. And I had brought this Tupperware container filled with Cheez-Its, or like Cheetos, like cheese puffs. And they were in between me and Gabe, and I was looking away from Gabe down the river, and I don't know why, but staring down the river just kind of like calmed me down enough to where I didn't feel like I was having a panic attack.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know why. But down the river looked like it didn't even look real. It looked like a painting on like a movie set, and like the river was real up to a point, and it just stopped and it was just a painting on the wall.
It's kind of sick.
Yeah, I was like, dog, I'm like in the Matrix right now. Or the what's it called? The movie where the dudes, is it The Truman Show? The dude's like
The Truman Show is Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
It's The Truman Show.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like I was in The Truman Show or some shit. And yeah, every time I turned over to look at Gabe to grab the Cheetos, I would try so hard not to look at Gabe, because my like depth perception and me being high made it like scary to look at him.
Yeah.
And his face, like looking at his face and him like smile at me super stony and shit just like made me uncomfortable. So I would just like look over, grab a cheese puff, and then look back down the river because I was like spooked. And this went on for at least 30 minutes, maybe closer to an hour. I don't even remember, because my sense of time was messed up, until I eventually worked up the courage to like stand and walk around. And then once we stood and walked around and we got away from the river and the loud like rushing sound of the river stopped, I instantly calmed down. And I was having a great time. Then we met up with another buddy later on in the day. Castro.
Oh, Castro.
Yeah.
I think I'm wearing Castro's jacket right now, to be honest with you.
And yeah, we smoked like another bowl or so with him later, and then Gabe left, and me and Castor had a blast of a day after that. After I'd like worked up the courage to leave the river, beautiful time. Had a good time smoking the other bowl later in the day.
Oh, that's nice.
Next to the same river, so I don't know if the river was the problem, or what. I think I was just overwhelmed and trying so hard to like
uncomfortably high.
Like, know everything that I did before and shit. Like, I was just thinking myself into, like, confusion. Like I was like a Pokemon with confusion that kept hurting itself. That's the best way
Until
I can
you ran
describe
away.
it, bro. And the craziest part about this story is one of my last very powerful psychedelic experiences. I took 3 tabs of, it could have been like 3.5. I honestly can't remember if I ended up taking another half or not.
Jesus.
But it was like 3.5 tabs of some good, like, gold flake yellow gel, liquid gel acid. And so yeah, like 3.5 tabs of that, not all at once, but I did like a tab, felt great, did another tab, felt great, and did another tab, and there might have been a half in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So, when I was like peaking off that shit to that, like off of that acid,
Sure.
at my desk, I had the like, the same exact feeling where I just kind of, for a split second, I like couldn't remember who I was, and it's super hard to explain. The best way I can explain it is I forgot who I was and like what I was, basically.
Yeah.
Like I had a split second where I was like, what's going on? Like,
On
type
acid,
shit.
that makes sense, but that is
Yeah,
weird.
and then but it only lasted like a couple seconds, and then I was like, I had a thought. I was like, I felt this exact same way when I got really high
How did you
smoking
get
weed
the
for the
same
first
feeling?
time.
That's so weird.
And then I like smiled, and I instantly felt like joy and
That's
warmth
sick.
and comfort, and I was like, that was the same feeling I had when I smoked weed for the first time and got too high. I was like,
Dude,
yo,
you got the first time
maybe
high
I
back.
just like broke. Yeah, I was like, I thought 2 things. I was like, there's got to be some like mysterious like way that these certain chemicals affect our brains, that different chemicals can make us feel like like we almost made it back to the same place. If that makes any, like, I got to like the same point where I was like, maybe I like, my soul wanted to like leave my body or like switch to a different fucking dimension or some shit, but I was like awake, so I couldn't, so I like forgot who I was.
That's interesting.
That's kind of, I feel like ever since like tripping really hard, I have like a completely different look on like people losing like their grip on reality and going insane, because I feel
I don't
like
think it's that hard to do.
yeah, I feel like I've been so close to that point, or I've gotten there for like a split second,
Yeah.
like such a short period of time, that I know it's like there's a way to not be in your brain, like what makes you not be in control of your body, but you're still awake and still able to move and do things.
Yeah.
Like people running down the street naked, like saying a whole bunch of shit's going on, and they wake up and they have no clue what happened.
Jesus.
Fucking
It's their soul, dude.
yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but basically, yeah. And the second thing I thought was like, damn, am I like so used to being like not based in reality or like stoned or something that I need to take this much of a potent psychedelic to get to that same point that I just got from smoking a bit of weed my first time?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's really weird.
Yeah, so like my tolerance of psychedelia or something built up so much that I
Definitely
needed
did.
that, like, yeah. Because imagine if I had done like that amount of acid at the time that I smoked weed for the first time.
You might have been one of those naked people. Right
Yeah, I probably would have been one of those naked people running down the street, like on someone's lawn, thinking I'm the next incarnation of Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you could be, technically, right?
Yeah.
I think.
That's what fucking like gives me the shivers about these kind of substances, is because when you're on it and you're feeling that like peak of crazy shit, you feel like you can sometimes feel like you're seeing too much or like knowing too much.
Yeah, it does feel like that. So, yeah, one time I was laying on my bed. Like, this is the first time I took acid. And Broderick My friend Broderick, you don't know him. He double dosed us.
I know Broderick.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you do.
I don't know him well, but I know him.
Yeah. So he just sold them to us because we could trust him, but he didn't tell us that they were double dosed. So
We're 15 minutes in. Keep going.
Okay. I forgot, like, what reality was, so I was, like, going off the time, which obviously was, like, felt like years. But I 10:30 rolled around, and I was like, I think that's when people go to bed. So I went home to go to bed, and I was just laying in my bed. Now, I don't know. I think this is a common feeling, but I was just like solving things, and I have no recollection of what they were. It was like that feeling of like, oh, that's what it is, over and over and over again, and then you feel like, what am I even like learning at right now? You feel like you know stuff, but I don't know.
I think it's because you do, but it's so complex that we can't like describe it with our monkey brains.
Right.
Like once we come back to our monkey brains and we're like, I
brains.
felt this and I saw that and this and this and this happened. Like it sounds like we're just like, what? You did what? And you were where?
Right. Yeah.
So I completely understand. I was in the woods with Castro, tripping on the same gel tabs, just not as much. We took like 2 tabs pretty recently. And we were just posted up by this like mini river and like the train bridge that goes over it.
It's called a creek, I think.
It was a brook technically.
Oh, okay.
But it's like it was a little bigger. It was like big enough to where it'd probably go up to like your belly button or chest.
Oh, that is.
And it's like pretty long, but it's not a river. But yeah, so we were posted up by that, like deep in the nature preserve out there, tripping balls, and I felt like I kept saying, I said it multiple times, I was like, dude, I'm getting like some crazy nature downloads right now.
Yeah.
Like I was like downloading ancestral data from like multiple lives and shit, like, and I felt like I was connecting super heavy with like the nature around me. I know that sounds weird, and I felt like, I swear to God, I felt like I spectated a tree at some point. Like, that's the best methodology I can use to
like you were like just watching.
Like I was standing so still. I was peeking, and I was just standing like a tree, just like staring at all the nature. Just
nice.
Because all the sounds of like the water dripping and like the breeze and shit just sounded so beautiful. And me and Castor were just silent, just taking it all in.
Yeah, that's what the trees do all the time.
And yeah, I felt like I was just so still and so calm. I felt like my vision and my like consciousness shifted from like my head almost instantly, like it faded, and I was like looking from the perspective of the tree, not at myself, but like I could see myself in my peripheral vision.
Right.
Like I had like the tree was a character or something in a game, and I hit spectate, and I was looking like a tree, or like a camera view from the tree.
That's
Dude,
sick.
It's a crazy fucking chemical. And I felt like, oh shit.
It just turned off on you?
It stops when you go for a while.
Oh yeah, 20 minutes.
Right up. Okay. So, yeah, I felt like I was just getting so much information and knowledge and shit. And Anthony was with us earlier on, like before we had gotten really deep. And he was with us to when like the Sid really started to come on strong for us. And there was a couple points like Anthony would just, you know how he's a fucking talker. He knows how to talk and how to talk like
loud.
with like righteousness and excitement. And he was talking about like God and shit and like creation and all that, and I'm in such an open mind state. I'm like, he's spitting too much facts right now that it's like making me uncomfortable. I'm like, I saw Anthony as like a prophet for a bit, and I was like, you need to like go into the city, stand on top of a podium. Like that's how I felt. And fucking, like, he was just talking a whole bunch of shit about like God and creation and like death and stuff like that, like deep shit. And me and Castor were just going away, so he was just like, we didn't have nearly as much to add to the conversation. Yeah. He was just like
going on,
giving us a whole bunch of shit to think about. And there was a couple of times where I literally out loud was like, oh, I understand. Like oh,
what kind of
shit.
stuff was he saying? You have to get more. I want to know, like.
Well, not necessarily.
I didn't even know he was religious.
Like, he would say shit, and not even like that, but like, but like he would say some shit, and then I would go deep into it, thinking it like super deep in my head because I'm on acid, and I would feel like I felt like I was like seeing the inner, like I was, like you were saying, you kind of like something, like you're seeing something that you can't describe happen, like you're like seeing the inner workings of the universe and shit,
right.
like seeing the like why shit is the way it is. And I was like, there's a couple times where I had like an epiphany about like existence and shit, and I was like out loud like, wow, or like, whoa, okay. I like, okay, like I was being told some shit or taught some shit, and I was like, oh damn.
But it wasn't necessarily what Anthony was saying.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It was but he inspired a lot of that because I'd just be sitting there and listening to him, and I'd be like, he is like I am so deep, like he doesn't even know what he's doing to me right now, basically. But I didn't want to stop him because it was super powerful. I was like, this is like I felt like this was like us in the woods tripping sack, and him going on about that shit was like a historical moment. I'm like I feel like I've known y'all from past lives and shit, and y'all are like very powerful, influential individuals. Like, and I told them that, I'm like, I feel like there's something about us that's greater than we realize and shit like that. And I do think that about every single person that's in my life, because everybody in my life has their place so perfectly. I don't know how to describe it, but
they fit. Yeah,
everybody's so perfectly like themselves and imperfect that it makes everything perfect. I don't know how to describe it, but that was a pretty cool way of describing it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I was getting like, it got like really biblical and like fucking like spiritual, and like even like Castor's face had like tribal like
the war paints,
sort of. It was like super detailed and like had cool ass like patterns that I can't even describe.
Oh, I think I know. Yeah, I saved a picture like that on like my Explore page, like cool tribal like patterns.
Yeah, I was like, he felt like a wise warrior. I was like, I maybe it was just because I realized he was feeling what I was feeling, and he was holding it together so well, and I was like, thank God you're not panicking or saying weird shit or doing weird shit, because it would make me so uncomfortable right now. But yeah, I don't know, especially too, I was like, he said a couple times during the experience, he was like, I feel like we're sort of like experiencing the same, like we're in the same experience right now.
Yeah,
like we're in sense. It. I mean, obviously, but
I mean, yeah, because you're like, Anthony's not.
Yeah, that was after he had left too.
Oh,
but like, yeah, and also, I know I'm getting really deep into this, but
keep going.
Fucking, there was like, it was like, in this happens. I've noticed this happens like almost whenever I trip with somebody, or I'm like, somebody's on like this, like a similar, like the same wavelength as me, like super out of it and unable to like put your thoughts into words. It felt like whenever I was trying to explain something, he knew what I was saying, but like our bodies wouldn't let us like express that without expressing it awkwardly, like without having to look away.
Yeah. Or
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
or like pause and shit. And he was doing like the same shit that I was doing when he would say that shit to me. So I would like, it was almost like whenever I tried to break the fourth wall with him, like on like a super trippy level, he like, it was like he was like, nah.
Made him
and then just like, nah. It's super hard to explain.
Visit him in the astral plane.
It was almost like when I tried to explain some super deep shit, it was like he was unable to engage in that conversation with me. And whenever he did the same thing, I was unable to engage in the conversation with him, like, actually. And it was almost like I would be feeling some crazy shit, and I'd be like, yo, you know, I feel like I'm learning all this, like, shit from past, like, I'm going deep talking about past lives and, like, God or something, and he's just like, it's super hard to explain. It's like when I'm tripping with somebody, they're like a perfect mirror to how, like, I'm feeling on the inside.
Yeah, it always makes me feel good.
And it
whenever
like,
I'm the only one, I have no one to relate to.
Yeah, it makes me feel good, but it also scares the shit out of me sometimes, because when I get really deep into it, it's almost like
they know.
I've had experiences on acid where I feel like I'm the only one there, or like anything that I'm experiencing is just created by me, and I'm like playing with myself in some weird fucked up way, you know what I mean? And like and nobody like whenever I try to talk about certain things or going into certain things with people that I'm really close with, it's like me almost being like, good try, no. And I'm like, fuck,
it's your time.
It's super hard to explain, but it's like, I don't know, I'm definitely a little like,
dude, they started new research or I don't know if they just got like funding for it or something, but they're actual researchers doing research on how LSD might be like altering your brain like the receivers of something in your brain, and you're taking in different, like, it's basically they're trying to see if it's really telepathic or not, because there have been like a lot of weird like things you can't explain, or dude, it's so but like, because don't you ever, and did you hear that there was this woman who she, I don't know, Phillips Pharmacopoeia on Netflix did like an episode on her. She'd taken like a bunch of acid her whole life, most of her life. She like dated one of the guys who was big into like the development of it when it first came out, I think. And then she had this, it might have been the same boyfriend, but she ended up cheating. She like ended up cheating on her actual like man that she had been in a relationship with a bird that was outside, because she would like communicate with it apparently for like so long that it would come and fly and lay in bed with her, and she was able to get it to come in every day. And like it's with like an actual thing that happened, to the point where she was like, I actually love this bird on like a different level. It's so like,
I believe it, yo.
It's like, I don't know, it's not like magic. I mean, kind of, but there might be science behind it.
Yeah.
We don't know everything.
One of the craziest things that I've heard is, for the longest time before like sort of recently in like the grand scheme of like human civilization and shit like that, there wasn't a separation from what we call science, spirituality, and religion. It was all kind of like one thing, or like you couldn't talk about one without talking about the others.
Right.
And so like people who were scientists also were probably into like psychedelics and spirituality and shit and vibrations, like Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, and that also ties in very heavily with religion, because religion's just kind of like the
you could argue there's probably not a religion out there that wasn't started by some sort of like psychedelic of some kind.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. It's like thinking about God, or having an existential like debate with yourself is probably the most primal thing that you can do, other than eat, sleep, shit, and piss and drink water. Because and have sex. Like, because as an animal, you try to feed yourself, get water, use the bathroom when you need to, dispose of the waste, and then you try to reproduce. And then after that, if you have all those bases touched and you have free time, what else do you do other than think about why you're here, if there's a creator, that such. So it's probably like the oldest topic or like pastime of human existence since we've touched all the primal basics.
Well, I think that's a lot of like anxiety that people get, like the overthinking, is just because like we don't have, like, we're supposed to be using that as survival instincts, not like going to this 9 to 5 and then you like make a paycheck you can barely live off of, and you have all this free time in your dingy apartment. It's like, that's not how you're supposed to be living. You're supposed to be like heightened and you need to survive, and like, I don't know, might have made things too easy for some people.
And no matter how, like, what kind of environment we're in, our brains naturally want to solve problems. So even if things are as perfect as we could imagine they physically and mentally and spiritually could be, we're gonna find something wrong with it, and we're gonna find a problem that we feel like we need to fix.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna find a problem that does need to be fixed. And it's almost like comfort is very deceiving, because it's a like the amount of return that you get on comfort is very short-lived. Like, it's very exciting the first time, then after, like, the second time it's nice, but it's not as cool as the first time.
Right.
And then 4, 5, 6 times it's cool, but then you kind of start getting bored of it. Like, it's like that with sugar, food, sex, drugs.
Literally anything.
Yeah, literally anything. People.
Yeah.
And where was I going with that?
You tell me.
I forget where I was going with that. Damn, what were we saying before I got on that? Oh yeah. So it's almost like humans have an innate desire to, like, always find, well, I already said we have an innate desire to solve problems and fix things.
We have nothing to solve.
But it's like the only way to be truly happy and content is to find like something that isn't perfect. Like, the only way to be perfect is to find the imperfections.
Yeah, because it's something to keep working towards, right?
Yeah, the only way to be content is to, like, be content with not being content.